everyone, my name is Naina and I'm from the Bodhi Academy. So today we're going to deal with the chapter that is materials, metals and non-metals. So in this chapter basically we're going to learn what are metals and non-metals and how they are distinguished into metals and non-metals. So in your previous classes you must have seen about or you must have seen the elements like ions, aluminium, copper. So what are these elements? Sorry. Are they metals or non-metals? So here some examples are given like iron, coal, sulfur, aluminium, copper. So among these, which are the metals and which are the non-metals? So how will you distinguish between them? So aluminium and copper are metals. Coal and sulfur are non-metals. So how I distinguish between them? So there are few properties. On the basis of these properties, we can distinguish metals and non-metals. These properties are physical and chemical properties. So what are the physical properties and what are the chemical properties based on which here the physical and chemical properties. On the basis of these properties we can distinguish between metals and non-metals. So what are the physical properties and what are the chemical properties by which we can distinguish metals and non-metals? Let's see first the physical properties of metals and non-metals. So have you ever seen a person beating a nail? Nail means iron nail. You can say cure. So when a person beats an iron piece or a nail or a shovel, axe, it gets its shape. A plain sheet of iron when beaten, it gains a shape. So similarly, so you have saw the shape of iron nail, or you take an iron nail or an aluminium sheet and you beat it constantly. It will form a thin sheet or it will change its shape. So the shape of iron nail or aluminium wire changed on beating. So if they were beaten harder, this could be changed into thin sheets. So the property due to which they can be turned into thin sheets is known as malleability. So the property of metals by which they can be beaten into thin sheets is called malleability, and malleability is one of the physical properties of metals. So we have started with the physical properties of metals and non-metals. Among the physical properties, first one we have seen is malleability. So what is malleability? It is a property by which a piece of wire or a nail can be converted into thin sheets. Or metals can be converted into thin sheets by beating it. So property of metals by which they can be beaten into thin sheets is malleability. So this is a characteristic property of metals. Only metals can be converted into thin sheets. Non-metals, we cannot turn them. For example, non-metals like coal, pencil lead, your pencils, we can't beat them to thin sheets, right? So this is a characteristic property of only metals. So can you hold metal pans in your hand without a wooden or a plastic handle? All the pans that we use in our home has a handle, either made of wood or a plastic. So without that, can we hold a hot metallic pan? No. So why we can't hold them? Or without wooden or plastic protects, we will get hurt by holding a hot pan or a hot thing, right? Even the electricians, the screwdriver which they use, it has a plastic handle. So why there is such things? So the iron rods, nails, it's to protect us. All these plastic and wood handles which are given, they protects us because metals, they easily conduct heat and electricity. So if we hold it directly, we can get hurt. But wooden handles or plastic handles, they doesn't carry any heat or electricity, so it is convenient for us to hold them. So you observe that iron rod, nail and copper wire are good conductors, while rolled sulfur, coal piece are poor conductors. Poor conductors matlab they doesn't conduct any heat or electricity through them. That's why all the pens, screwdrivers, they have a handle either made of wood or plastic thing. So on the basis of this we can say that metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. Whereas non-metals are poor conductors. So, where do we find aluminium or copper wire? In the electric wires. All the wires that we use for electric connections, they have copper wires in them. But do we have seen any coal wires? No, definitely not, because they are non-metals and they doesn't carry any electricity. So the property of metal by which it can be drawn into wires are called ductility. So what is ductility? It is the property by which a metal can be drawn into wires. So the third property, that is ductility. So what is ductility? Through ductility, metals can be drawn into wires. So till now we have seen three properties. One is malleability, where metals can be beaten into thin sheets. Second one is metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, whereas non-metals are poor conductors. Third property is ductility. In ductility, we can convert a metal piece into wire. So have you ever noticed difference in sound? So when you drop a metal, have you ever heard the sound of metal? Like it gives a loud sound when it falls on the ground. For example, your plate, it is also a metal. So when the plate falls down, it gives a loud sound. But when we drop a coal piece, does it give a sound? It doesn't give a much sound. So the things made of metals produce a ringing sound when struck hard. So the metals, they give a very huge sound when we struck it harder. So since the metals produce ringing sound, they are said to be sonorous. So another property of metals is sonorous. They produce loud sound. They produce loud sound. So on the basis of these properties, we can say that the material which is hard, lustrous, malleable, ductile, sonorous and good conductors of heat and electricity are called as metals. So what are metals? Metals are those materials which are hard, lustrous means shiny, they are malleable, they are ductile, they are ductile, they are sonorous and are good conductors of heat and electricity. So metals are the materials which possess all these properties, like they are hard, they are lustrous, they are shiny, they are malleable, they can be beaten into thin sheets, they are ductile, they can be converted to wire, they are sonorous. When they fall, they produce a big sound and are a good conductors of heat and electricity. So the materials which possess all these properties are known as metals, whereas non-metals, they are not sonorous, they are poor conductors of heat and electricity. They break down into powder or mass on tapping with a hammer. So non-metals, they are soft, they are not shiny, so non-lustrous. Malleable, no, they are not malleable, they will be broken down if we beat them with hammer. Soft, breaks when beaten with hammer. They are ductile? No, they are not ductile. Sonorous, they doesn't provide sound. And are poor conductors of heat and electricity. So these are the properties of metals and non-metals. So non-metals, materials like coal and sulfur, are soft and dull in appearance. They break down into powdery mass on tapping with a hammer. They are not sonorous. They are poor conductors of heat and electricity. These materials are called non-metals. So examples of metals are iron, copper, aluminium, calcium. And examples of non-metals are sulfur, carbon, oxygen, phosphorus. So here the examples are iron, aluminium. Here we can take sulfur, carbon, phosphorus. Okay, so these are the physical properties of metals by which they are distinguished. So in today's class we have seen what are metals and non-metals and how they are classified on the basis of their physical properties. So what are the physical properties of metals and non-metals? Like metals, they are malleable. Malleable means they can be converted into thin sheets, whereas non-metals, they cannot be converted into thin sheets. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, whereas non-metals are poor conductors. Now what is ductility? Ductility means metals can be drawn into wires, whereas non-metals, they are non-ductile as they cannot be drawn into wires. Sonorous, metals are sonorous means they produce a loud sound, and non-metals are non-sonorous. So what are metals? Metals are hard, lustrous, malleable, ductile and sonorous, and are good conductors of heat and electricity. Examples are iron and aluminium. Non-metals are soft. They break down when beaten with hammer. They are non-ductile. They are soft and dull. So there it is hard and lustrous means shiny. Here they are soft and dull. Dull means they are not shiny. So soft and dull. They breaks down when beaten with hammer. Non-ductile. They are not ductile. They doesn't provide sound and are poor conductors of heat and electricity. So here you can be asked to write the physical properties of metals. So you can write these properties, and they can also ask distinguish between metals and non-metals. So on based on these points, you can distinguish between metals and non-metals. So thank you students for watching my video. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.